I wonder if everyone could take their seats, please. We're going to start in just about a minute. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. If everyone will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Lauer,
Here.
Alderman Sage,
Here.
Alderman Malomboy,
Here.
Alderman Burgess,
Here.
Alderman Painter,
Here.
Alderman Schmidt,
Here.
Alderman Black,
Here.
Alderman Hallman,
Here.
Alderman Fruin,
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We're actually going to go ahead and start with proclamations, and we've got a really exciting one here to begin with. We've got a couple, and that is the proclamation recognition of leadership skills of Avani Ray. Avani, are you here? Will you please come forward? And I'm going to have a copy so you can actually see the real one. It's right here. Isn't that cool? And it's well-deserved. And I'm going to go ahead and read that, all right? Proclamation recognition of leadership skills of Avani Ray. Whereas we are here to celebrate the achievements of Avani Ray, a student at Evans Junior High School, and whereas Avani recently completed the Illinois State Fair, earning the Superior 4-H Exhibitor Award of Excellence for her project Leadership Skills 1, and whereas 4-H aims to develop members into positive, competent leaders. 4-H leadership experiences help members achieve group building skills, self-confidence communication skills, and teamwork skills. And whereas Avani has also been recognized for her academic leadership qualities, being awarded the Dr. Ben Carson Scholarship Award, the Outstanding Achievement Award, and Illinois State Young Authors Award. Imagine what you're going to do by the time you're 20. And whereas Avani is a youth volunteer for a nonprofit organization that helps areas of India receive education, health care, and information about personal hygiene, along with volunteering at local food and blood drives. And whereas I, Terry Renner, Mayor of the City of Bloomington, do hereby deem it an honor and privilege to extend this proclamation to Avani Ray with sincere congratulations. Therefore, in witness thereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Bloomington to be affixed this 12th day of September 2016. Congratulations, and you are wonderful. And we are proud of you very much. Yeah. And we have proud parents here taking pictures, and that's wonderful. Yes.
I would just like to say thank you to Mayor Terry Renner and the prestigious City Council for giving me this honor. I would also like to say thank you to my parents for their love and commitment. And finally, I would like to say thank you to my teachers from my elementary school and my Sunday school, Bal Gokulam, for inspiring me and giving me opportunities to learn why and how leadership is about serving others. I enjoy serving our community, and I truly believe that by serving in this community, I am making a difference and inspiring others to serve in our community as well. Whether it is being on student council or participating in the local save a food drive for local charities, or raising funds through Eco Vigilia to help promote education in rural areas, or being on the 4-H leadership team. One thing that I have learned through my experiences is that I had to listen from my heart to my team members so that I would understand how to best use their strengths to accomplish our goal. Once again, I would like to say thank you to Mayor Terry Renner and the prestigious City Council members for this honor.
Well, thank you. And actually, that was outstanding. And no notes. Wow, yeah, amazing. And we have another award, and this is actually a group award. And I wonder if Tina Salomon and other members of the Cultural District would please come forward or stand and be recognized, please. I know we've got some in the audience. I see them. Don't be shy.
I said there's a rule in children that you don't follow animals and children.
Well, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to have you have it in hand while I read this. Thank you. Please, everybody, come forward. What a distinguished group. Come on. Thank you. We good? Okay. This proclamation, Bloomington Center for the Performing Arts, 10th anniversary, September 16th, 2016. Whereas the Bloomington Center for the Performing Arts opened on September 16th, 2006, and will celebrate its 10th anniversary this fall. And whereas the center was born from the belief that a performing arts center is fundamental to the cultural pursuits of our community and vital to a better quality of life, whereas over 859,000 people have experienced the joy of attending events at the center, with over 85,000 people now attending events every year, and whereas the City of Bloomington has made a visible and long-term commitment to the existence of a first-rate arts facility in downtown Bloomington, and whereas as mayor of the City of Bloomington, I'm proud to congratulate the Bloomington Center for Performing Arts on such a truly special occasion. Now, therefore, I, Terry Renner, on behalf of the City of Bloomington and the citizens of Bloomington, extend our sincere congratulations on the 10th anniversary of the Bloomington Center for the Performing Arts and our best wishes for many more years of success in the years ahead. Thank you, Tina, for your leadership and everybody. What a critical piece, component of our community and our downtown. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now, we have an appointment of Eric Penn to the Planning Commission. And Eric, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you for your willingness to serve. Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead and move to public comment. And you have up to 3 minutes, and we do have a timer. And just so that everybody knows, we do have a mayor's open house, 4:30 to 5:30 every Friday, before a Monday city council meeting. And so if you want to engage in dialogue and discuss with us problems, we can, you're certainly welcome to go over there and between 4:30 and 5:30, sometimes get answers right away, solve problems at real time. We're certainly able to do that. When it comes to the public comment section, we will only listen. Okay? So at this point, we're going to go ahead and start. And again, please, I will have to cut you off at 3 minutes. That's according to our ordinance. Rose, and I'm going to mispronounce your name here, Rose McLaughlin? McLaughlin. Oh, Rose. Oh, my gosh, Rose. Come on. Bad mayor. Come on forward, Rose.
I'm just going to stay put.
We do need you to come in and sign in if you're going to do public comment.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay, well, tell you what, you come on up and I'll help you. Oh, she's signed in?
She just needs a mic.
Okay. Yeah, come on right over here. So all you need is just that, and then we've got you on the record, and you're on television, but don't be nervous.
I'm not. You might be, but I'm not.
Please, Rose, continue. Go ahead.
My comment is transferred, the city buses. We do not have a bus go through Lincoln Towers at all for the people who live there in Lincoln and anybody else who rides the bus that gets on and off there. I have to walk 2 blocks to get downtown Bloomington to catch the other bus. I rode the Orange H 3 weeks ago, and the bus driver saw me, stopped in the middle of the road instead of the turn, and picked me up. If there was a busy street then I would have been hit. That should not happen. We need the bus, goes back to Lincoln Towers, is what. And that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rose. Thanks. Michael Davey, and then Bruce Meeks. Michael Davey. Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Meyer, thank you. City Council, thank you. I appreciate your attention and willing to listen to what I'm thinking. Again, I am from...
We need the voice. We need you to pull that mic up a little bit, if you could. Yeah, apparently it's not
Is
catching
it okay now?
We good? Yes, we're
Okay.
good. Okay.
I'm a resident of Lincoln Towers as well, and there is a problem with the bus for us at that particular location. As she said earlier, we did have a stop there, which is like 10 yards from our door. And, many of the people in the building have trouble walking. They use canes, they use crutches, they use walkers and wheelchairs. And if that bus stop was there, they would go 10 yards, get on the bus, and ride it to the downtown in front of the courthouse, and they wouldn't have to do that walk and cross what Main Street where we live, it's Monroe. It's very dangerous there, and the way they have it set up now, they have the bus stop in front of the Coliseum. And the bus pulls over in a turn lane, the road is curved, the traffic coming around that curve is just very quick and very crowded. Rush hour, it's madness. And so then people are trying to get on the bus. Well, they get on the bus, and immediately from that turn lane in front of the Coliseum, that bus is pulling all the way over to the left lane so they can turn on Olive. It's incredibly dangerous, and every step of the way you just see accidents. That's all you see. And it's dangerous for us. So, our buses don't go where they used to go. I mean, my family lives in Normal off of Rab Road. The bus doesn't go there anymore. I mean, it's like a quarter of a mile where I can get as close to them as possible, and I have to walk that quarter of a mile. And it's like, even though I don't use all the time a cane, there are times when I must because my legs are so bad, they cramp and I can't walk. So, I mean, there's just so much going wrong with the bus. I mean, I understand they were trying to make it better, at least that's what I hope, but what they did was they made it a lot worse, and the only good thing I can say about the changes is that they run on Sunday. That's really all. Otherwise, no good. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Great. Thank you. Now, next up, Bruce Meeks and Liz Bearden? Bearden, sorry, Liz.
Hello, elected officials and the 2 wonderful staff members. I just hope that the citizens hear from you and from other citizens that Venue Works Coliseum is not anywhere related to the previous Siam management. I don't want Venue Works to have any backlash from what may be happening with the Siam situation since they left. But I do hope there's some accountability with what may be going on with the Siam situation. I just hope that nothing of the city property was damaged or removed. I hope that the entire contract was honored, that we got all the money that was due to us and all the percentages of the contract over all 10 years. And I hope we go after and try to collect that money if that in case proven to be factual. I do hope we have all the data from the point of sale system. And as one of our famous corporate entities likes to do all the time, What are lessons learned from the Siam experience that we're not proactive enough? As citizens, we're not proactive enough. And as the previous councils and this council, you were not proactive enough in the situation. I'm one of many citizens that asked for a forensic audit of the Siam situation months and months and months ago. Like I said, I hope there's nothing wrong, but I fear there is. Thank you.
Liz, if you come forward, and then Alton Franklin and Pamela Reinbrick. Oh, okay, great.
Yes, sir. I'm not going to start harping on the same thing, but I'm going to issue a challenge. Anybody that has not rode on Connect Transit, I ask them to go 1 week riding transit to and from anywhere and everywhere you go and see how long it takes you to get anywhere you need to go. There is a girl I know. She has to leave 3 and 4 hours early just to make it to work on time. There's other people I know that what used to take 2 hours to go around and get your bills paid and everything, because we are immobile and we can't get around, it takes her 6 hours and she still does not get all of her stuff done, where it used to take 2. So this is why I'm asking to be challenged about taking this bus system for 1 week and no use of your car. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alton Franklin, Pamela Reinbrick, and then Gary Lambert.
My name is Alton Franklin. I live at 508 Patterson Drive here in Bloomington. Um, and before I forget, for both the consent and the regular agenda tonight, I have not been compensated in any fashion, either financial or otherwise. I am saying what comes from the heart, and one of the first things is I would like to say thank you to Avani. The youth of today is amazing. And what she has done is even more than amazing. It's impressive as all get out. I really like to see that kind of concern and involvement and engagement on the part of the youth of today. It also speaks to her parents, her grandparents, all of her family and her extended family, because it takes a lot of support. It takes a lot of get up and go to do what she got up and done. So having said that, on a much more dire note, uh, I don't have the faith that Mr. Meeks has. I don't have any hope that it's going to come out with anything less than malfeasance on the part of the people who are supposed to be looking after the citizens' interests in all the things that we've done, but more especially those large things like the Coliseum. It's downright pathetic. The talk that's come out, the notices that have been given, if nothing else, the FOIAs that have been pulled, if they were just glanced at, the material that was grudgingly given to the citizens by the city doesn't speak too much to a lot of faith and a lot of gratitude for what happened. Simply put, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself because when it comes right down to it, it's on the head of the city council. Y'all are the ones who have staffed us, and I use that in the literal sense of the word. Simply put, you could have done a lot better. You did not do due diligence. You have not performed the management and care of the resources entrusted to you by the remarkable citizens of the city of Bloomington. I am proud of my fellow citizens, but I am not ashamed of what they have created because they're nice folks, too nice. I don't know. I'm hoping that we see a real cleaning, a real airing out of this council in the next election. Thank you.
Next, we have Pamela and then Gary Lambert and Serena Fish.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for City Council for hearing me tonight. I am the student of Domo Geshe Rinpoche, and she is a very high Lama teacher, Buddhist teacher. She's coming to Bloomington, and she's talking about things that I think everyone can benefit from. She's coming October 21st, 22nd, 23rd. The 21st is at the Bloomington Center for Performing Arts. The 22nd, 23rd is at Heartland Bank in Normal. What she's teaching on is learning life's two great lessons. And can you believe it's how to get along with others? And the other one is true compassion, having true compassion. I think it's something that we all could use, whether we're citizens, parents, teachers, council members, mayors, students. The other day is healing our relationship with ourselves. And we're never going to get what we want unless we have some sort of healing and we can compromise with people so that we can get along with others. And most importantly, get along with ourselves, which through life we have things like criticism, lack of confidence, fear, stress. She teaches how to overcome this so that we can have a true healed relationship with ourselves. The last day, which is the 23rd, it's healing our relationships with others. And I think it's so beneficial so that we can have good relationships with people. We know where we live. It's a stressful world. It's not always nice. But if we know compassion, and if we can have that good relationship, we can also have a good relationship with others. So if we can do what that little girl did tonight, all of us can step up and be that person. It'd be really wonderful. I'd also like to ask in my 50 seconds if it's possible to get a proclamation day for Domo Geshe Rinpoche in October.
We normally don't to interface, but if you will send me the information, we will make that happen.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Gary Lambert, Serena Fish, and Patricia Martin.
Evening. I see we've hit the news cycle. I see at 6 o'clock on WEK we were on, and on the radio earlier today. Not in a very good light, I don't believe. I just wonder, I certainly don't know, would this have come to light had it not been for the efforts of a private citizen issuing a lawsuit against both the city and Siam? And it's been a long effort for her, and I thank her for those efforts. Strange places you find lessons in life. I think they're a little applicable to our current situation. Here's a Mary Worth comic out of Sunday's paper. It's a quotation by Thomas Jefferson. Honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. Another has been attributed to Teddy Roosevelt. Not sure if it's an accurate attribution. A man who has never gone to school may steal from a freight car. But if he has a university education, he may steal the whole railroad. I think we have a lot of university-trained individuals involved in this investigation. Lighter topic. Perhaps Patty will answer this when she gives her presentation. In the debt service policy, general principles, item C, it says, debt financing not used is a major caption. The city will not use debt for any recurring purpose, such as infrastructure maintenance expenditures. in my way of thinking, road maintenance is just that. But maybe she'll address that. Thank you.
Okay, Serena Fish and Patricia Martin.
Hello. Hi, I'm Serena Fish, and I live at 909 Westwood Street, Bloomington, Illinois. Still in love with the city. I'd like to bring everybody's attention to a meeting that I went to this past week, which was the Chief of Police focus meeting for the month. This meeting was so important, and almost no one was there. You were there? This meeting had to do with something that is very, very prevalent in today's society, and it's something that's moving into Bloomington. And I think that the chief, Mr. Boone, and the gentleman that he had with him, the message that they had about hybrid gangs and how they're moving into our area was so important. I would like to recommend that they do that meeting again, and they do it with the idea that all principals, anyone that's in charge of a youth organization, and an invitation to any church leadership would like to come. It scared me to death, but it was really informative, and nobody came. You all need to hear this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Patricia Martin.
And I must agree with Serena wholeheartedly, because I came to the meeting as well. And thank you again. I want to offer my congratulations and best wishes to those of you who plan to run again for re-election. Despite problems that do exist and that we often discuss in a heated fashion, both through public comments and at the Friday open houses, I'm most grateful for the work that you have done this last year. And I want to include my own personal interests and concerns, especially the proclamation regarding elder abuse, which puts us in line with the governor and president's statements. And I trust that you will continue promoting this in the future. For as we all know, proclamations and legislation are only effective if they are consistently put into practice. So the ultimate responsibility is placed in the hands of those who are in charge of our facilities and homes. In other words, all of us, here in this room and elsewhere. So how do we do this? By ensuring that the people we hire and we ourselves are capable not only of running a business or home, but have the consideration and compassion to keep our facilities, homes, and roads safe, and are willing, able, and unafraid to make the necessary changes in practice and personnel as needs be. For we do not want our citizens, young and old, and ourselves to be slaughtered, physically and metaphorically, by those who are unable to do this. And we must first and foremost be true to ourselves and what we need as a growing and inventive community. It is also extremely important to do this since we are putting millions of dollars into the renovation of older facilities and the establishment of new ones. And the case in point is the recent Broman Wellness Center in the east section of our city, a beautiful $35 million facility which I would encourage all of you to support. As you probably know, the president of Broman Medical Center is Colleen Kennedy. And I'd like to tell you a story about her. Some time ago, I was in the hospital cafe, exhausted, and I'd ordered ice cream as a respite. The waitress, some 20 feet away, told me it was ready to pick up, and I didn't move. I couldn't move. Colleen walked by at the same time, looked at me, looked at the ice cream, and brought it over to me herself. What more can I say? This is what all of us need. Administrators who not only have the ability to run a business, but have the empathy to understand the needs of the patrons and staff. And again, best of luck to all of you, and thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay. We're going to move right along now to the consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the City Council would like to have removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion or consideration? Seeing none, Jim, You want to make a statement?
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to the consent and regular agenda, I have not received any financial benefits from any of the individuals or organizations referenced in each of these specific agenda items. And I will also add that as we embark on our election season, I will reaffirm my longstanding practice of not accepting any campaign contributions. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda then?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Howman. Any further discussion? Okay, hold on. Should work here. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And we move right along to the the regular agenda. We have a presentation of the 5-year capital improvement plan and the capital finance and debt policy. We're starting with the presentation by Mr. Hales and Patty Lynn Silva, our finance director, for about 20 minutes, and then about a 20-minute discussion by the city council. And I want to say this is a long time in coming. Thank you, Mr. Hales. Thank you, Patty Lynn, for all the hard work you've done on this. Any city, any community needs to be able to take certainly stock of its capital assets and when they need to be either replaced or repaired. And this is something that has been a long time in coming, and I want to thank the staff. So I'm going to turn over to Mr. Hales.
Yes, thank you. And if I could ask Patty to come in and set things up, I'm going to just take a few minutes up front to make a few comments. And to get us started on this presentation, then turn the bulk of the time over to Patty Lynn. But first, let me just indicate, and Mayor, as you indicated, the preparation of this draft 5-year capital improvement plan, or we might even use the term community investment plan, is a result of many, many people. We've had a lot of directors, mid-level supervisors, individual employees who have been very involved in this. Certainly the work of the finance staff has been critical. There's many, many names. I can't even think of all those who have been involved in this or may yet be involved as we continue on with this very important project. Let me also just point out that when I came back in 2009, time and time again, not only did I always hear when we were talking about city services or our procedures, there was always that response, well, that's the way we always did it. I'm not here to talk about that, but I also heard probably just as many times as why isn't my street resurfaced? Why hasn't the street been widened? Why hasn't the park been built? And then they would say, so-and-so within the city promised me that this project was going to be on the next year's budget or 2 or 3 years budget. And I think that's an important point to bring out tonight, because ultimately what we have lacked since I've been here is any kind of definitive, well thought out, well prioritized, well funded plan for our capital improvement needs. And a plan that could be relied on, that once the city adopted that plan, that those improvements actually would be built in the year we plan for them to be built, and that there wouldn't be necessarily other projects or budgetary items that got in the way. We often talk about the need of the city to have long-range financial plans. Well, it's also just as important for residences to be able to have long-term plans, neighborhoods to know what's coming into the future and to plan, and businesses as well. I want to just very much emphasize and be very emphatic in that ultimately when this 5-year plan is adopted by you, the governing board, and that hopefully won't be for many months as I talk about the timeline, it has to be a document that people can rely on, so that once a decision is made on this 5-year plan, that the citizens and the public can hold and be assured that we mean it when we say that this project is going to be coming forward and will be built in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. And unfortunately, the city's done a terrible job, of too many times And again, it's even sometimes staff members have made those promises without really a realization that it didn't have council support or there was other financial issues. Needless to say, back in 2009, 10, 11, not only did we have the Great Recession, but we had so many other financial needs on the operating budget side that had to be addressed. For now, over the last few years, there's been a tremendous effort to really begin to get the data that we really need to begin to bring to you a much more factual, a reliable, and a very significant capital improvement plan that we can kind of begin some very serious consideration of, prioritization of, and acting on this, as we hope will be a kind of a hallmark of this council between now and next spring. In fact, before I go further, let me just bring to your attention, hopefully I think everyone has a copy of this timeline. Now this timeline is going to continue to change, but I think what we want to share with you is tonight we're going to kind of give some high-level information on capital improvement financing, talk about credit policy, debt policy, and how debt figures into, generally, most capital improvement plans. But as we go forward, we're hoping that you will agree to allow us to occupy some very significant time, not only on your part individually, but as a governing board. Just looking at this, there could be as much as 10 and a half hours or more given to, or let's say, I think it's just for council presentation and discussions. There could even be more hours of council time individually. So whether it's 10, 15, 18, 20 hours, I strongly believe that unless there's a commitment to spend this kind of time, we won't achieve our main goal, and that is ultimately to adopt a 5-year capital improvement plan that can be relied upon, that we can all plan for, and that is well thought out. It is an integral part of the city's long-term financial plan. And when I use that term, keep in mind there's also the operating side of the budget, which we've really spent most of the time in recent years focusing on. And keep in mind that you cannot separate ultimately the two in making some very serious long-range financial decisions, because one affects the other, and the two go hand in hand as we ultimately look to our taxpayers to provide the revenue sources to achieve both, not only the manpower for operating services, but the needed money for capital. Furthermore, I just want to mention too very briefly that, as we've said before, the city of Bloomington has some very significant capital improvement needs that have been deferred for many years. For too many decades, the city had a policy, whether it was written or just inferred or just by practice, that put a high premium on funding infrastructure improvements associated with new residential growth. Very unlike, I think, the norm out there if you would look at any other cities. And because of that, where we stand today is a outcome of decades in the making. And to really begin to, or to address the deferred capital needs will take decades to even begin to get to hopefully a brighter state of where we stand on our capital improvement needs going forward. I'm just going to mention a few comments on best practices. And you can read, if we go to the first slide, I'm just going to mention that any good best practice on a capital improvement plan has a very detailed inventory of the assets and the component parts of any asset, whether it be a water system, roads, etc. It have a very detailed assessment of the condition of those assets, and that it also incorporates some cost-benefit analysis of what do we do How far gone are some of these assets? What is the value of maybe putting a higher priority on some capital improvement funding over other projects? And have we really come up with a methodology to really help establish? And lastly, the prioritization of those assets. You will, in the weeks and months ahead, hear from the directors and our resident experts of what they recommend in the way of prioritization, whether it be the water system, the sanitary sewer, the stormwater system, parks and recreation facilities, etc. But the hard part ultimately is going to be, well, how do we balance maybe fire station remodeling needs with park improvements? How do we balance surface street resurfacing if the underground sanitary sewer, stormwater, and water is so far gone that we need to make that investment below ground before we make the investment above ground? And and we know how difficult some of that times that can be. Furthermore, I think it's important that we also point out on this timeline is, where does the public come into play? What is truly going to be our written community involvement or community engagement process? Because as I've seen here, we haven't done the best job we can do, and hopefully that we will do going forward, because not only do we want the input of our staff, you will make the final decisions, but if we don't engage the public, and people especially are much more concerned with what's going on in their neighborhood, the things that they're faced with, whether it be sewer backups, very poor roads, et cetera, and frankly, I think we ought to all agree that a very robust community engagement plan is necessary before you make any final decisions. And it is not only an important decision or commitment to make up front, but in the entire life cycle of a capital project, we need to continue to do a better job of let people know as we get within 2 years or 1 year what's going to happen, when's it going to happen, because many of these projects can be extremely disruptive, and people, just like we want to be, and we have to plan in our own households budgets for things coming. They need to plan ahead, and they want to know too, these neighborhoods and citizens and businesses, what's going to happen in their particular area of the city that they're familiar with. Going on to the next page, on current practices, it's pointed out here that back in 2003, there was some inventory of capital assets, but that was mandated by the Government Accounting Standards Board. And the reason they did that is they recognized that too many governmental units, federal, state, local, counties, et cetera, were withholding from the knowledge of the public the deplorable condition and state of infrastructure. And we've all heard that civil engineers give the federal infrastructure, usually they always come back with an F, and a lot of it derives of limited funding, both from operating, maintenance, and so forth. But what we have accomplished now in recent years, and we're not done yet, we probably have 6 to 8 major master plans, infrastructure master plans. There's still some to approve. There's still some to be completed, such as water. And there's even some elements of these plans where additional condition assessments will have to be made. But the point here is, I think we're to the point where now to take the next heavy step of ultimately our main goal is to have you adopt a 5-year plan can be done and it can be relied on. We have the data in which to make informed and wise decisions. And with the community input, you'll have hopefully community backing for some tough decisions of how do we finance this very serious backlog in the amount of possibly $400 million. I think it'll probably exceed that by the time we're all done. And again, it is a many decade-long process but we have to start somewhere. I think if we go to the next page too, I think I just want to make sure that this ultimate 5-year capital improvement program or investment plan has to be dynamic, because there is going to be things that come up that's going to be a surprise to us, that you've got to modify and change that. But I will say this, that these master plans too, whether they're parks, streets, or others, ultimately the public wants to have the assurance that they can rely on those where they haven't had that assurance in years past. So to me, I can see this as being a very significant communication initiative that's going to take the effort of many, many people. You as elected officials, the management staff, employees, Nora, who knows? Nora may ask for another person or two, and I know you're willing to consider that if that's what it's going to take to have such a plan. We often talk about some of the needs, but I have the cities that I've seen that have really been able to not only prepare but to track, monitor, manage, and implement practices like this. We still don't have all the resources we're going to need. Patty Lynn, knowing her department staff, I don't think they're necessarily ready with the resource to embark on a major, capital improvement plan. The same's true in the engineering department. They don't have the manpower to be the project managers and oversee these, and on again. But I think as time goes on, we'll be having more discussions with you of how can you do that. To me, it's not with hiring on a lot of new full-time employees. It may lead to hiring some new employees, but there may be a lot of contracting out necessary to make the kind of aggressive progress that I think many of you want. Now, as I'm going to turn over things to Patty Lynn, but two final comments. One, I think it's very important that as we begin to talk about how and what are some of the methods and what are some of the options to finance capital improvements, that be a topic we begin with, but we're probably going to end with in 3, 4, or 5 months, because ultimately you will be making that decision, how aggressive you want to be, whether or not you're willing to take on additional debt. A debt policy will be ending with that as well. And just as a matter of fact, the only reason we have a debt policy is when we were looking at refunding certain bonds. One question we got asked by the credit rating agencies is, do you have a debt policy? They didn't care what it said. What they wanted to know is, do you have a policy? We didn't have that back when Tim Irvin was our finance director. So we put one together, we put it out there, and we haven't made much use of it, but we will going forward, because it's your philosophy, your fiscal decisions on how much you think the community is willing to invest in capital improvements as well as operating is going to be a function, hopefully, of that policy and the decisions you feel is going to be appropriate and reasonable for this city. Not another city, but for the city of Bloomington, given all our needs and all our things that we have to look at. So with that, let me now turn to Patty Lynn. She's going to get into the meat of this issue of capital financing 101. We're going to try to continue to not necessarily hit on every detail you have in the written packet, but especially to highlight on those things we may want to make sure you can think about and consider in tonight's presentation. So, Patty Lynn.
Okay, thank you so much, David, and you've covered quite a bit, which is great. I'm really pleased and proud to be a part of the capital improvement plan. It's so nice that it's happening outside of our normal operating budget, because it allows you to have really just kind of that singular sense that we're talking about capital and really putting the emphasis on that. But as David said, you really need to know what you have and to have a capital plan and a capital planning policy. So that's where the assessment comes in. And one of the things that, as best practice, it asks you to do is have a normal, within your operating budget, money for maintenance, capital maintenance. And because we really haven't had that as a city, and that's not unique to our city, that's where you come up with all this deferred capital that we keep talking about. The listings of what types of things should be in a capital plan are before you. There's a capital plan, and then there's a capital planning policy. We should always be having money. We should always have money in our budget for periodic assessments and master planning. We should consider accumulating reserves, linking fund strategies to the useful lives of assets. We don't want to issue debt or have strategies that are longer than the useful life of a 20-year asset if it's a 30-year strategy. We want to understand all the financing options, which I'm going to do this evening, and they're very short and sweet. There's really no magic to the financing options. It's just a matter of preference. And understanding what our financial capacity is, and then monitoring it. Once you have a plan, you want to make sure that you monitor it. But I'm very excited about this because, as you know, we have a lot of infrastructure, and I feel that we're getting there. And so fiscal capacity, which is really our a question that we get a lot on the next slide is, you know, how much debt is too much debt, and how much are we allowed to issue? We really don't have a legal debt limit. What they're going to do with us, and what they did recently, I'm sure you saw the press release that we were reaffirmed by Fitch. They have new criteria, and the credit rating agencies are at liberty to do that. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But what they're going to do is, if you're home rule, they love that because you have a lot of flexibility. However, they're going to compare us to our peers. And one of the ratios that we look at, which is on the next slide, is, you know, a simple debt per capita. And these are the communities that we're normally compared to. We're not all the same credit rating, but we're similar in size and as best as they can do. And you can see that, you know, in terms of our debt per capita, we're kind of on the low end there in terms of, you know, per citizen. And that's a good thing. But there are many, many, many debt ratios that they look at. And in addition to debt ratios, they look at our local economy, how diverse our revenue streams are, which has really happened lately. If we have strong management from the board level down to the senior management. And they also are looking a lot, of course, in Illinois on our pensions, excuse me. And right now in Illinois, we pay about a 20 basis point penalty for issuing bonds in Illinois because the state of Illinois is actually the lowest rated state in the nation. So we are actually paying more when we issue from this state. But Bloomington stands out, and we highlight that with the credit rating agency because of all the things that you guys have been doing over the last few years. And we've been able to maintain our solid AA credit rating. And to continue to do that, we really need to have a plan for our very large deferred capital, again, which is what you guys have been embarking upon. Options to pay for debt are really 4 things. You can accumulate your reserves. There's 4 different ways to do that. That's really hard coming from where we've been coming from, and we're trying to get our basics covered, but it's an option. The water fund has that. They've been accumulating. They have over 150% fund balance, and they have that because they've been saving for the capital projects they need. Unfortunately, the $20 million that they have is probably a drop in the bucket compared to what their full needs will be when their master planning is complete, but they have been accumulating their reserves to get started on some critical stuff. Pay-as-you-go is simply paying cash. Do we have enough cash on hand to address some of these million-dollar projects? You really want to make sure that you have enough cash on hand to where you're not affecting your critical functions. You don't just want to spend all your cash down just because you have a decent fund balance. And debt financing, certainly issuing debt is something that most municipalities do because you can never raise enough cash really to pay for the full capital maintenance or the full amount of infrastructure that you need. And in our case, we have a unique case of savings and debt service. And I'll just go to a slide that will help to explain that. But just briefly, we have $21 million allocated this year for capital funding. 8.8 million of it in blue is for the water, sewer, and storm where they're using their reserves. So we are employing that. We also have in the yellow and in the green, we have the 4.8 for street resurfacing, where revenues have been raised and earmarked. And in the red, or the 22%, we have 4.9 million that we get from state motor fuel tax. That helps this year with streetlight and new construction. And then in the general fund, we're paying $3.6 million in cash for capital that you approved in this year's budget. I won't get into all the methods of accumulating reserves here, but you can do it based on depreciation or other. Pay as you go, there's pros and cons. If you pay too much cash, you can drain your reserves. And also, if you pay cash for a project that's going to last 30 years, there's intergenerational tax inequity issues. So it's really a matter of preference. And debt financing, you can complete your projects rapidly. In some cases, some of our infrastructure is severely depreciated and really does need that. There's a better opportunity to have intergenerational equity. With inflation rising, you could pay back in cheaper dollars. And in addition, as we replace our assets, and we're finding now with our rolling stock of capital equipment and cars, we're seeing a lot of savings in the repair and maintenance of the city because we are buying and keeping up with our rolling stock of vehicles. The city's outstanding debt will be paid down over 50% in the next 10 years. So there's an opportunity here, and I'll just go ahead to that slide, to use the savings there. What you see in yellow is our current existing outstanding debt, and you can see how it's laddering down. And the blue is the capacity you have to issue and remain at that same, let's call it $6 million a year in debt service. So if you do not want to increase your budget, this is a philosophy that many people employ, is where you work back to that same cap, if you will, and you design the debt in different ways. As it steps down, you add a little bit back. And in this case, when we did this, you could have between $40 and $50 million worth of ability to issue bonds, depending on how you amortize, without increasing this $6 million we're already paying in debt service. So that's always kind of a good thing to know, an attractive asset that we have, so we kind of have that fourth option. Generally, when we go out and we issue debt, we try to have it paid 50% off within 10 years. That is in our current debt policy that we created. I will say that we're in line with our debt policy at current, but it's in, I've already been in the process of revising that and updating that and providing some flexibility for you guys going forward, because there are things you can do. We're still at a historical low in interest rates, and we have a lot of need, and we don't want to expend all the cash that we just took all the trouble of accumulating and affecting our credit rating. So we're at an opportune time to either take advantage of something like this or to issue some new debt with a recurring revenue stream that you guys may have already adopted. When you issue debt with a recurring revenue stream, although it is in your debt per capita and other ratios, in particular when it's utility debt such as sewer and storm, if you were to adopt the recommendations in their master planning at some point, that's really considered a wash to the credit rating agencies when it's a utility. It's a very low risk that revenue won't come in. And so they kind of put it as an aside. After 3 years, they take it off completely at your debt ratios. So they're really encouraged when you match your new money issues with a new revenue to offset that. That is actually my last slide, aside from the debt service policy, but I think it's just, we're trying to keep this at a very high level for you guys so you can understand what your options are, and I'm really happy to answer any questions that you might have on the policy. And Glenn, I did look at that. Gary, I'm sorry. Gary, I did look at that, and you're right. You don't want to issue bonds. Let's say we can't make our bills, our regular operating bills. We would never want to issue bonds and just dump it into our bank account and pay our bills with it. That's paying your accounts on credit cards. You can actually do that. You can, but it happens over my dead body. because it's a very poor way to do business. And the secondly, you really shouldn't use it for what's called capital maintenance. If we could afford to have it in our budget, we would. But you don't want that intergenerational tax parity, so inequity, so you want to incrementally add that. But when you're talking about resurfacing, that's often called the capital maintenance. I'm on the fence with that, but because I think we're going to use our roads before we get back to them probably for a good 20 years. So, but it's a matter of policy decision for the council. So I hope that's been helpful for you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so begin our council discussion portion. Questions?
And Mayor, if I could just interject this, I think our intent, as you've seen the schedule, is to try and keep our presentations to 15, 20 minutes. And from here on out, you'll be hearing more from other directors. But then we want to leave the rest of that for the council to begin to react to what they've heard. And certainly as we continue to go forward, it'll be more into those specific categories. But tonight, we thought as whether it be issues of, some of your philosophies, some of your thoughts on debt, as a high-level topic or a specific topic or means or methods, to finance capital improvements. Again, the thought is to give back to you so that you can have some initial discussion, not necessarily to make a policy decision, but to begin to react to each of these segments of the ultimate, 5-year capital improvement plan. So thank you.
Sure. And again, just so that everybody understands, we're not acting on anything tonight. This is just a very high-level discussion about broad policy options. The proposed CIP schedule has capital financing and debt policies, September 12th, and then following up with streets and sidewalks, September 19th, storm sanitary, 17th of October, 21st of October, culinary water, parks and rec, et cetera. So these are things that we're going to be talking about through a comprehensive recap on March 20th. So just so that we begin that with some general information. And I do see our first light on, Alderman Lauer.
Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your work here. Under number 5 in the actual policy,
In the older policy that?
Yes.
Oh, in the policy, yes.
Okay. It talks about debt service expenditures per capita.
Yes.
And we can talk about that a couple different ways. We can talk about it on a gross basis in terms of number of people living within the city or citizens versus actual taxpayers. And so there's a couple different ways we could look at that, I'm sure. Not everyone that lives within the city is an actual taxpayer and there's many different levels. It depends on whether they're homeowners, whether they're actually renting. There's a number of different ways that you can look at it, and certainly there's a number of different scales and valuations that happen there. As a mean, I'm concerned over time that this may not take into account for the economies and the ability of the local economy to pay for some of these improvements. And I'm concerned that, yes, we have a lot of needs, and certainly, especially in the long term, if we are able to afford to make these improvements sooner rather than later, we'll maybe be able to nip some of this in the bud and possibly. And I appreciate, David, all the effort that you've put in here. It's difficult to think about. It's hard to wrap our heads around. We have a number of different needs financially over time. We have building repair needs. We have road repair needs. We have road improvement needs, which are very different. We have sewer repair needs that could effectively maybe last many, many decades. And so certainly with the intergenerational leveling out of that debt, I can appreciate where we're going there. I'm looking at a more short-term issue, though. We need to be able to allow our economy to grow as well. And so there's a balance here. And certainly Steve Stockton and Jesse Smart and others have talked about this in the past. So it's a big issue, and there's many facets to this that we need to be talking about and discussing. So, thank you.
Okay. Others want to weigh in? Comments, questions? Alderman Black.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty Lynn and David, for your remarks. I just want to highlight the fact that there are a couple pieces that you've done tonight that I really appreciate, namely the timeline. I think that's something that we're encouraging. Kind of gives that clear line of sight between now and then and where we're going for the public to know when they want to weigh in. You'd asked initially about some feedback on how to engage with the public. That's a tall order. I know that there are some very passionate people that believe that their street should take top priority, regardless of where it would fall in a kind of third-party rating system. But I would say maybe something that is modeled to what Vasu did for bringing on Bloomington, maybe not as intense, but maybe some working groups of people who are focused and committed to learning more about the kind of needs that we're facing, perhaps some Bloomington 101 grads would be a great group of people to reach out to. But I like that that's definitely at the forefront. I think nobody can deny that we want to engage with the public regarding that this is our community, right? So for me, kind of from the beginning of the founding of our country, the amount of debt that we need to sustain and can sustain has been a hot topic, and I think it's good that we have this constant conversation. I see government debt as good. I think government does not age, so it's not like my credit card debt. It's not the same thing as that of me buying a car. We get value from our infrastructure improvements, and I've seen studies that run the gamut. For every dollar spent, it could be $1.15, $1.20, $1.30 back in return in economic development for the community, and that's undeniable. Also undeniable is the fact that this council, at least in the time that I've been here, has spent more on roads and infrastructure, streets, sewers, and sidewalks than previous councils before that. Undeniable fact. But there's more to be done, and my only concern as we do a CIP is that I think it needs to be both flexible and realistic because needs change over time. So I don't want to be locked into something 5 years from now that we can't adjust, change, refinance the different project. The example that I would cite is we've seen a number of different attempts for us to get the Hamilton Road extension. That's been bopped around and moved around on a number of occasions, and we can all cite something different there. So I guess my feedback at this point in time is I'm looking forward to more conversation about it. I hope that we can come up with a way in which we can engage the public, but that takes time and effort and planning. But I hope it's modeled off of something like bringing on Bloomington, which I think was a wild success, captured a lot of really good voices, people who are educated on the topic and were passionate about seeing the community be successful. And I think that's a recipe for a great capital improvement plan or community improvement plan, if you will. So thank you.
Alderman Mwambwe and Sage.
He was
First? Oh, okay. I was going to...
So also wanted to say thank you for this, and I've touched on this before. One of the things, this is one of those really big rocks I have really waited for several years for us to get to. And so, again, as David always does, he highlights the contributions of the staff, because this has been a tremendous, I've watched what staff has done over the years, even before some of the aldermen that are here now were here, right? And so we've seen these plans build one on another and provide the underlying foundation then that positions us to do a community investment program or a capital improvement plan. And so, again, thank you to the staff for this. I'm not as concerned, and you're not asking us to talk about debt financing tonight, and we'll talk through that. But one of the things I really liked, Patty, is you highlight the need to provide, we have to have dedicated funding streams. If there's one thing I've learned is that we can no longer talk about something that we're going to do and not have the funding stream attached to it to clearly identify how we're going to pay for that, right? I mean, I've seen through the years, again, we're still living with some of the pitfalls of some of those past decisions where there was not a funding stream dedicated to this. So I appreciate, because I know other comments you've made, David's made, that will be an important part of the CIP, right? And again, I'm just offering some encouragement to say, I think that's key, that's fundamental to working through the CIP and getting it to where it's approved. So thank you.
Alderman Miller-Wampoy.
Well, thank you. Wonderful work. I love the slides. Very informative. I think along with a couple of other aldermen, that one of my concerns is the debt service, in the future. Um, I'm especially concerned about that, given the fact that we had a conversation last year about structural deficit and not being able to meet some of our needs. So I'm really concerned about the possible economic downturns that we could face in the future. And as a result of that, I'm not sure at this point if I would go back to, as our debt service decreases, if I would go immediately to, bringing it back to the same level. So that's something that I think we need to be pretty cautious about. Although I agree, I mean, I've been a strong proponent of infrastructure improvement and repair. But at the same time, that's something that I'm going to be watching very closely. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry. Nobody else. I wanted to wait one more time.
Okay.
Sorry. Alderman Sage's remarks brought back a point that I wanted to bring up again. How much more are we paying because of the state of Illinois' poor financial condition?
About 20 basis points. If you go out and issue some new money, there's a penalty built in, and when we go to get our credit rating agency, when we reaffirm with the credit on our existing debt, it's very difficult. I mean, we have to really put a lot of effort in, especially in the area of pensions, which we've done so well in, but they just kind of have this idea that, Illinois and pensions. So we work very closely with the rating agencies, and there's a lot of back and forth, and we work very hard to get that rating reaffirmed and highlight the things that we've done.
Thank you. And it's another example of disappointment from the state of Illinois. And, if I'm looking at my crystal ball, we're going to bring back the same guys in the next election cycle. And we're here because of the decisions that have been made, or in this case, not made at the state level, that impacts every Bloomington resident. I mean, these are parks, these are streets, these are sewers, this is our community that are being impacted because they can't get their act together. And what are we now, a year and change without a budget? I mean, it's pretty deplorable. So I hope that we can encourage folks to call on their legislators to get some action done, because this is not a ephemeral program. This is a definite impact to our community.
Thank you.
Is there a,
Alderman Lowry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is there a way that we could kind of help to define that? I have a little bit of a drum I could pound on when it comes to Springfield, and I will do that on behalf of Bloomington if we need to do that. If I have some factual information I can take down there, I'd be happy to. I know that it would be easier if we had the ability to finance some of this into the future, if we didn't have those basis points to have to fight against. And so if there's information that you could get to me, I'd be happy to try to take that forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We were just in a session with Senator Harmon up from Naperville, and they're very aware, and they understand. It's just that when you're dealing with credit rating analysts that either turn over or are new to the region, or they're comparing a lot of people, they have the concern about Illinois. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. But we're doing our part locally, having addressed a lot of our long-term liabilities, such as the pension, which is huge.
Yes.
And it's as soon as I delineate that, oh, let me see your funding, let me see your policy, let me see that. And it just goes on from there. We have a lot to do, but there's so much that we have moved ahead in master planning and, getting pieces together informally that have gone to help our credit rating agency and this plan. So thank you.
Great. Anything you can do, Kevin, would be helpful. Alderman Sage.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick follow, because I agree with what Kevin has said. David, that's why I appreciate for the last 4 or 5 years we've had our annual state legislators roundtable meeting here, where we bring our representatives in and our state senators in, and talk about these issues that we're talking about tonight, right? And so, I appreciate that you've already put put at least one of those mechanisms in place where we have that direct face-to-face communication with our state legislators on these issues around things like funding and the discrepancies and the needs that the state's left us with. So thanks for doing that.
Okay. All right. Well, you have final comments.
Just in closing, if there's no other questions, I just want to mention one or two quick things. And as going forward, we will be bringing back to you some recommendations, which will include some options dealing with, say, debt limit, as well as financing. As an example, you'll probably, so we want to do our part to give you more detail going forward so that you can make some of these final decisions. As an example, to me, I would recommend ultimately we work towards a situation where we're budgeting in our operating budget to use the pay-as-you-go for, say, vehicles, like police vehicles. It is so constant. We have a very good idea, the rotation and everything, to really get into a habit of maybe borrowing, and paying interest on that. It may be that could be one of the policies we bring back. Let's use the capital improvements that vary a lot, maybe are bigger in unpredictable. Those could be, maybe considered for something other than pay-as-you-go. And secondly, as we're looking at this, we will continue, as we go with these projects, continue to give you a running list of big projects we believe are prime for strong consideration for debt financing. And I would throw out as just one example, under new street construction, the Hamilton Bund to Commerce. Another one could be Lafayette, Maine to Maple. I mean, these are, and there's going to be others too, some fire stations, and some other improvements. But what we want to do is make sure, and again, it's not that this is the final list, it's just that as we go with these categories, we do want to begin to give you a running list of projects that could be considered for, let's say that the majority is willing to consider keeping the debt service level, looking at that 39 to 50 million and say, these are some projects, if you agree on the priority, could be strong candidates, especially if there's a need for funding sooner rather than later. And one of the reasons we want to do that is to continue for you to see the big picture. Because if we ramp up and spend so much of that money right away without going through everything, and for you as the council, with input from the community, really prioritizing these needs, then I think we'll be short-sighted, and we won't be thinking of, well, we could really hit that debt service level quickly, and then what happens if we have a new fire station we need to build, or something of that. So we will be doing our part to kind of help provide you some of those reminders as we continue to go along. And just a reminder, a week from tonight, we're going to be hitting streets and sidewalks. A critical issue in that, which may require a decision sooner rather than later, is street resurfacing for the summer of 2017. Just like we did last year and recently on the 10 million, it is going to be time critical to have some of that discussion of whether or not we ought to spend more than $5 million in street resurfacing next summer. The mayor has championed the Streets 2.0, which would call for additional, but we'll also be talking about there the critical infrastructure improvements, water, sanitary sewers, stormwater, as well as what's the capacity of the contractors in this area, and what about even contractors out of the area? Is that even feasible? So keep in mind that we put that first because we do need to even begin now to get a high-level understanding of whether or not you're supportive of increased funding for next summer, because we do need to start on some of that pre-planning. So that's just kind of a heads up as to what we'll be talking about a week from tonight during the committee of the whole, as well as some other topics. So with that, that's all I have on that.
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, and we've more than exhausted our time, but I was obviously very, very critical. And so I think it's been a very, very productive conversation. Thank you again, everybody, for your help. At this point, I'm going to turn it over, Mr. Hales, do you have any comments for city manager's discussion?
I do. I'd like to ask Tom Daberiner to come forward. In our last regular meeting, we talked about the downtown priorities plan, the resolution of how we're going to go forward. I'd like Tom, and we're still at an early stage, but to talk about some of the processes he's thinking about working on, because we're going to look to him to be the prime coordinator of how can we ultimately, with your help, with the public's help, ultimately bring back to you a draft downtown priorities plan as called out in the resolution that you adopted and gave myself and staff the charge to implement. So this is just an update, so I'll turn it over to Tom for.
Thank you, David. I'm going to try to talk about my fall allergies that are kicking in already, so I apologize for that in advance. A little over a year ago, we adopted a resolution in support of the comprehensive plan. And since then, we've been chipping away little bits at the some of the tasks that are part of the comprehensive plan, including things like the zoning ordinance, wayfinding signage, cultural district commission has been meeting and discussing some things. And we really want to start that process again with the downtown strategic planning effort, and ultimately come up with a priorities plan as indicated. All of this information really has found its way into the comprehensive plan in one form or another. That has included the implementation section from the downtown master plan several years ago. That moved into the comprehensive plan. So we've got something to work with already, but it's a long list. So it's really important to start chipping away at that portion of the plan as well. So I'm really looking at a process that, at least initially, has 3 or 4 steps to it. Hopefully 3, but we'll quite possibly 4. First step actually begins September 22nd. Staff has been working on a process towards facilitation of stakeholders and stakeholder opinions in the downtown. That would include people such as the board members from the Downtown Bloomington Association, members of the Downtown Property Owners Association, and the Cultural District Commission. All of them have obviously a pretty strong interest in the success of the downtown. At that meeting, we would go through a process, a basic facilitation process, that would really help identify their priorities in terms of the list that you'll find in the comprehensive plan, a list of those action items. And I think importantly, they will leave that night knowing what they've done, because I think we're going to, at least I'm leaning towards a dot exercise so that it's very clear what actions really received the highest priorities according to that group. Now, that doesn't really include all aspects of every project. Comprehensive plan assigns some time frames to each of these actions, near term, midterm, long term. But what's missing really is kind of an order of magnitude cost, or at least a cost category. So we will take these results. Staff will work with them, take a look at the cost element and add that and bring that back to you. Now, before I get too far ahead on all of this, part of that meeting, again, we're talking about stakeholders. Karen Schmidt has been working on a PowerPoint that really has been fascinating to me because it shows before and after pictures, and it shows some great success already in the downtown. So it's a really great start, kind of lets us know where we've been and where we've gotten so far, and really sets the stage for moving into the future. So I appreciate that work, Alderman Schmidt. A couple points about this meeting. It is really just a workshop for the stakeholders. We can probably have a couple council members, but you cannot participate. All right? That's against the rules. But we do have to worry about the Open Meetings Act. And we can't have too many aldermen there. Other
If they be there and not, if they're there just in the audience and not participating?
No participation by council members.
I'm sorry. I see what you mean.
That we can have public notice and all of you could attend, but I don't want you to participate because really at this point we want to hear. You'll get to participate eventually. You're frowning.
No. I'm just trying to. I don't need to participate. No, I'm just trying to work through in my mind.
Sure.
Okay, how that would work. No, I'm very happy to go and, believe it or not, keep my mouth shut.
Wait.
Call Ripley.
I'm going to keep talking. Sure, please come. Don't participate because we really want to hear from the stakeholders from the downtown. You'll get your chance once we've taken their information, their priorities, kind of worked through the dollars, like I say, and the time frame, and bring that summary back to you. Really a prioritization process that we're looking for from them. Now, that was actually part one and part two. Part three is there's a chance that we're going to go through this process and you're going to say, I don't have enough information, or let's follow up with the VASU approach that Alderman Black was talking about earlier, and let's take it to another group or another couple groups, or what if we did something that really basically changes the comprehensive plan? That has to go back to Planning Commission. So there is this potential middle group of meetings that might happen. And we'll see. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out at this point. I can't say for sure that we will definitely have to do one or another. And really, I would encourage whoever participates in this, and we'll talk about this at the meeting, to not do anything to change the comprehensive plan. A lot of work went into that. There are problems if we start changing the comprehensive plan and we have to take it back through a public hearing process and things like that. Don't want to have to do that if we don't have to. Don't want to close the door on it completely. If we have to, we have to, but let's try to avoid that because a lot of work did go into that. Part four, the implementation plan. Ultimately, that's where we want to go, that priorities plan that considers things like timing, next steps, timing, resource needs, priorities, of course, economic development tools, funding tools, really in one package that would get turned over to all of you for consideration. And then staff would use that information as we move forward year to year, as we look at future budgets, as I look at my department and what we would need to do in next steps, Public Works as well, perhaps police. That is really the outline that I've prepared for tonight. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay, and now are we okay with, because this is actually supposed to be the city manager's.
You can discuss something, you just can't take action.
Correct, okay. Alderman Lauer.
Well, I'm not, I'd kind of like to take a look into the future, Tom, and I'm concerned that we're placing an awful lot of precedence on downtown, and we're ignoring at the same time other areas of the city. I'm gonna stay on that subject, as you know, and everything with me leads back to creating jobs, and so I appreciate the prioritization, and I certainly appreciate the citizen involvement, but there are a lot of other citizens out there in a lot of other areas and a lot of other needs. So help me balance that. Thank you.
Thank you. What was part one again, Tom? I'm just kidding, okay. You may have said this, and I was jotting some notes, so you tell me if you did. When we talked about this when Friedman and Orr were here, and we talked about the meeting, one of the suggestions that was made was that rather than going into this meeting with just a blank canvas, that we provided some framework, some context, some fence post in the ground, if you will, for the stakeholders and such to kind of work is that kind of, and again, you may have touched on that. If you did, I apologize. But
I'm sure I leapt over it and then back and forward again. But yes, exactly. We have the tools. There are 6 key pages in the comprehensive plan that really I'd like to blow up.
Okay.
And use those for dot exercises and priority exercises.
To provide that framework, that context.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. All righty. Thank you again very much. And anything else, Mr. Hales? All right. And I just wanted to thank our council for participating in the Labor Day Parade. Now, we did have Alderwoman Howman that was with the League of Women Voters, and then we had Alderwoman Karen Schmidt, who was at the Bike Mobile, and yes, Steve Rasmussen, thank you for pedaling the Bike Mobile. That was awesome.
Book bike, it's not the
Bike, I'm sorry. Yeah. Book bike, yes.
I might get in trouble.
I'm sorry, yes, the book bike, yes. And I also want to thank Alderwoman Painter and Milawambwe, Lauer, and Black for all participating in our group in solidarity. Now, I do have to say, we did, I think it was last year, Alderwoman Burgess spent several $100s of her own money buying us candy that we ran out of very quickly. This time, we did get staff to provide us with candy, but we tended to have to go and be kind of moochers off normal after about 3.5 blocks because they had plenty of candy and we all ran out. So at some point, hopefully we will be able to get beyond the corner of Lee Street before we are reaching over to take candy from Normal's SUV. That's built in Normal, by the way. Anyway, all right. I have nothing else. Thank you very much. Any aldermanic comments? Alderman Black?
Thank you, and I'll be brief. So we had a couple public commenters come up tonight talking about Connect Transit. And I can't remember exactly when we entered into that intergovernmental agreement with them regarding how our increased sales tax dollars are going to be going towards Connect Transit. I think it's important the public know that we don't have a mechanism in which we are voting on any of the bus lines, and we have no way to effectuate that change. But I mean, I've certainly heard some feedback that people are upset. I wonder if perhaps next month or the following month for a committee of the whole, we invite Connect Transit to come here and give us an update on some of the feedback that they've received, changes that have been made. Because I want those folks to know that we've heard them, but our hands are more or less tied in this situation.
Can I just, 2 quick points is, one, we do have a draft intergovernmental agreement that we're just waiting on for some final review from the Normal staff. After we receive that, we'll be bringing that back to you to talk about, well, it addresses the funding, the enhanced funding, which really is allowing for a lot of these changes. That will definitely, provide some very strong monitoring ability to deal with the increased funding on a year-to-year basis, so on and so forth. Secondly, I do want to point out again, 4 of the 7 trustees on that board are appointees by the mayor with the advice and consent of the council. So we can definitely get that out to you. In fact, today I spent about an hour with one of them, and the big topic is, how to kind of get information. I've encouraged this individual and others to share with you any input they have and do more of that going forward. And then secondly, even as a non-voting member of the board, I'm sure one of the topics we'll be bringing up is what's going to be done to monitor and report back on the pros and cons or the positive, negatives of this major, rerouting. And I think what we're hearing out there is, just like we heard tonight, is there is many, many voices speaking out about the changes, not necessarily in a positive light. And some of these, so I think it is incumbent upon us, like you have recommended, to allow Connect Transit, even some of our trustees to come back and report back, and what are they doing to help make sure that the riders, truly are being listened to, their feedback is being considered, and what changes might be made going forward to even further enhance the effectiveness of the bus system, for the riders. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Lauer, and then
Just on that, one point I wanted to make, I've been contacted by one of the teachers, and apparently we'll be talking with one of the principals down at Cedar Ridge, I believe it's grade school, the new grade school on the south end. I believe that's in your ward. Some folks that live in Hilltop and attend school there, parents are having problems getting to parent-teacher conferences and back and forth to the school with the kids, et cetera. So I don't want to get into school busing, but certainly we're hearing from our constituency on some of these issues, and we may need to have a lend an ear, I guess, is the big thing. So thanks.
Right. Alderman Fruin.
Well, we are all very appreciative of the comments and should listen to those comments. It's very important for us to know where the problems are with our residents. I don't even know when the Connect Transit Board meets, but shouldn't we be directing some of this conversation to the Connect Transit Board for public comment?
I think that certainly makes sense. As I understood, Alderman Black's recommendation is that since we're getting a lot of it, so we're not just sounding like we're passing the buck, which is unfortunately what sometimes you get out of government, is to try to say, all right, let's directly, as people who have put up $600,000 a year, we're not going to micromanage you, but we do need to get some answers to some questions. I think it at least entitles us to that as part of our due diligence. Am I misstating your?
Makes sense.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
Mayor, if I could just, the board meets on the fourth Tuesday of every month, beginning at 4:30 p.m. down in their west side facility. So, what is it, a week from next Tuesday?
Right.
Is their next board meeting. Fourth Tuesday of every month, beginning at 4:30.
I was told once that the trustees don't take the emails, or they don't have emails you can get to them directly. But I wonder if we can.
They do.
Okay. Well, at any rate, I hope we can send them our public comment piece so they can see kind of the feedback that we've got.
Great idea. If we could get
a video of it.
If we could get the public comments from this evening.
Yeah.
And send those to Connect Transit board members, all of them, but obviously our Bloomington reps too.
Jerry will help me with that, and Nora will get that to all of them.
All right. At this
as well
point,
as the general manager.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay. I'm assuming a great idea is a second. Moved by Alderman Black, second by Alderwoman Schmidt. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.